a lot of folks say that it's been on the books, but it's not being enforced or enforced enough. What's your view of residency, and should there be improvements, and what would they be?
Well, first of all, when people say it's on the books, I'll venture to say that out of all the candidates you interview, if you were to ask any of them that's not an incumbent, and even the incumbents, how many of them actually have read the charter or any of the laws regarding residency, what they think and what they've heard is what they've heard in the paper or somebody else say. I was under the impression that there was a very narrow group of people who were by law were required to live in the city, and most of those things, I'm a big collective bargaining kind of guy. So I believe that, you know, those are the types of things that we can negotiate for, and we can come to an agreement. And once we do agree, then they should be enforced, because I believe that's what happened with the deputies contract. By law, they were supposed to, and they had a very legitimate argument by saying because it never was enforced. But many of the others are not, and in fact, the police and teachers aren't by state law, so it doesn't matter what the city does. I believe in residency. I think it's helpful. And at the same time that I would advocate for residency for the reasons of, as I explained to a lady earlier today at pulmonary rehab where I go, who lives in Westfield, who kind of snickered when she's at the hiring of our new fire commissioner. And she said, well, does he live in the city? And she gives me that kind of like smart, and I said, yeah, she does. And I said, well, I know you're probably not a big fan of residency, but I said a friend of mine who used to run the Business Improvement District and the Chamber, in fact, years ago, gave me a map to show the populations that come in and commute into the city on a daily basis. And what I'm saying is when you pay your residential taxes, that supports your schools. So the thing is, and if a majority of the people or a good number of the people that are coming in and drawing salaries in the city take them back to the burbs, to other communities, then their residential taxes are supporting those better schools than they have in Springfield. Now, when a kid comes from Somalia, who's 9 years old, never been to school, doesn't speak English, he's probably not going to go to Long Meadow, East Long Meadow, Agawam, or even Ludlow. He's probably coming to Springfield because one of the things I talked about very early, this is where you come when you need services. So when that kid can't be put in kindergarten, but he's got to be put into the Springfield school system, and then the standards by you're going to judge the schools is going to be the same. I said to somebody who lived in Ludlow recently, where's your shelter? She said, where's my home? I said, no, your homeless shelter. She says, we don't have one. And I said, well, how many kids do you think show up at the Springfield schools on a daily basis who slept in the shelter last night? How many slept in a car? Or how many of them allowed some pervert or somebody that was generally in their range, same age range, doing what young people do, but tolerated because it was better than the lecherous boyfriend that mommy had brought home, and yet had to go to school the next day. So these are the types of things, and not to say that only those things, those bad behaviors are exclusive to my city, but they're compounded in an urban center, but yet we're judged by the same standards of those who live in more affluent communities.